Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition here of Intuitive Angling. Really appreciate you guys making a little bit of time out of your day to watch the video. It's always much appreciated around here. And today I'm going to talk about what I consider the number one technique, the top bait number one technique to catch big fish in the springtime, especially the early spring, like right before the fish get spawning. I'm going to go through the whole deal on this thing, explain to you why it's so good, and give you some good juice on it. Real quick, just wanted to give you guys a weekly reminder on our Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns. If you guys are interested in learning more about your favorite lake, or if you got a lake you don't know much about, you want to learn more about, the best way to do it, and one of the greatest ways to support what we're doing here, is go to fishthemoment.com. I'll include a link in the description, and check out our lake map breakdowns, the ones myself, Johnny Schultz, and Matt Steffen make. We got lakes all over the country, all 4 seasons. It's a great resource, and we put a lot of time into that. So anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about here. And today what we're going to be talking about is big spinner baits. Big spinner baits with big trailers on them here, big blades, heavy spinner baits. And I'm going to give you guys some tips on this type of deal. And first of all, I'm going to explain to you guys why this works so good. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, but in my opinion, the best time of the year, guys, to fish, and I've been working outside, I got stuff all over my shirt. The best time of year to fish these big giant spinner baits, and the best time of year to catch bass over 5 pounds, is when that water temperature is between 50 to 60 degrees. And there's a bunch of places in the country right now where the water temperature is in that range. I'm going to say more than not, that's sort of the range of temperatures we're in. So we're right in the middle of this technique that I'm going to talk about here. These spinner baits, and I'm talking specifically about big oversized spinner baits here. This is a number 7 willow leaf blade, about a number 4 Colorado. This is a 3/4 ounce head here. Sometimes I use up to 1 ounce. And the skirt is just varying depending upon water clarity. I like the living rubber if the water's dirty, and if it's not, I'll go to the more silicone for more translucent. And another big part of this is the big trailer. I got a full-size Zoom trick worm on here to make this bait a super big profile. This bait right now is about probably close 10, 11 inches long. It's a really big spinner bait. And this is designed, guys, to imitate a gizzard shad, because in the pre-spawn period, right before the bass go on the beds, these gizzard shad, for the most part, are bigger than they are any other time of year. It's been so long since they've spawned. They're mature. A lot of these gizzard shad are in the same type of water zone and the depth zone as these big female bass are when they move up into the pre-spawn areas. And they feed on this. They feed heavily on gizzard shad, and they feed heavily on crawdads this time of year. So I'm going to say, guys, that, now I've said this before on the channel, I bet you that I've caught more 7-pound and bigger bass in my entire life in the month of March and early April on a big 1 ounce, 3/4 ounce spinnerbait with these giant blades on them here. Sometimes I will use a Colorado blade if the water's really dirty. For example, if the water visibility is like less than 15 inches, a lot of times I'll put a single number 8 or number 7 or number 8 Colorado on the same spinnerbait profile to get a lot more vibration, push a lot more water. Draws those fish to the bait better if it's dirty. But for the most part, I like the big willow leaf because I think it increases the profile size. So I'm using this big willow leaf anywhere that water visibility is between, say, 15 inches up to 4 or 5 feet. So this is the basic setup here. And like I said, the color variations depend. Sometimes if it's really dirty, I'll have a chartreuse worm on there. I really like the trick worm, guys. I feel there's something about it. It doesn't put out much vibration, but it creates mass. It creates length, and there's something about it. They like the straight tail worm. And like I said, the color, blade colors, skirt colors, all that, depending upon the water clarity. So what you want to look in there for is you want to throw this thing on classic pre-spawn areas. And we're talking classic pre-spawn areas, we're talking about those areas that those fish are starting to use as they're moving back into areas that they're getting ready to spawn. So, for example, everybody knows that fish like to spawn in the back of coves on flatter banks. So what I'm going to be looking for is I'll be looking for those steeper banks and points leading into these spawning coves. Like they could be a channel swing bank, it could be just a secondary point leading back into the cove, steeper type banks that are on a 45 degree or 60 degree angle bank. I'm throwing this big spinnerbait up there in about 3 foot of water, and I'm slow rolling it. I'm trying to keep it, probably a foot or two off the bottom. I don't want it on the bottom, and I don't want it above the mid part of the water column. I want it in sort of that, say for example, if your boat is in 15 foot of water and you're casting to the bank that is like 40 foot away, I want to try to keep that lure anywhere between, say, 2 to 4 foot off the bottom all the way back to the boat. That's going to be the key depth for those big ones, because those big ones, some of those big ones are suspended shallow, and some of them are going to be coming off the bottom. So by doing that, it gets in both sides there. So that's the thing I look for in man-made lakes. Now, if you're fishing a natural body of water or grass lake, like some of the TVA lakes that have grass, like Lake Guntersville, Chickamauga, or some of the Texas lakes that have grass, like Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn and Lake Fork and that type of stuff, I'm basically getting out on the adjacent spawning flats. So this can be areas that are basically flats coming off into the lake that are close by to shallower spawning flats, little cuts, little tiny coves, places that the fish spawn in that are shallower. Sometimes those fish will spawn on inside grass lines, but I'm looking for grass that is like anywhere between 3 to 6 foot from the surface. That's going to be a key deal. And again, I'm slow rolling the spinnerbait, the same deal, just above that grass a little bit. I have caught so many good ones, guys, over grass lakes on these giant spinnerbaits doing this. Santee Cooper Lake, Rayburn, Toledo Bend, all the TVA lakes. Just a great way to catch really, really good quality fish. The setup I use on this is another important thing too. Since this is a big bait and you got a lot of mass here, you got a lot of blade to deal with, you got a lot of lead on the head, you got the big wire here. I throw this thing on a flipping stick all the time. That Megabass Alkalies flipping stick I use, I throw it on 25-pound test line. You can get by with that 25-pound test Seaguar and Vizx line, because when that fish hits this thing, you have got to move this. This is a big 5/0 hook in here, and when you get a 5, 6, 7, 8-pound bass on this thing, they come up and they'll clamp down on this entire bait in their mouth. And you can imagine with all that hardware in the deal, you have got to move that fish hard. And the only way you can move that fish is with a flipping stick. And I just don't lose them on it. It's a great tool to throw them on. You can throw them a mile with it. You can, when you get to a lay down or something, you can pitch and flip it like you would a jig. It's just a great tool for that. But anyway, guys, this is one of my, well, it's my #1 early spring technique for catching big bass. A big, giant 3/4 1-ounce spinnerbait. Give it a try. Works all over the country. It's working right now. We are in the middle of it. We are dead in the middle of this technique working. So get you some of them, get them rigged up, and let me know how it works for you. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Again, I'll put the Fish the Moment link in the description for the maps, and please hit that subscribe button. See y'all later.